Good morning. This is Sarah, and it's time for our live video chat. I have several questions for you this morning that we're going to answer, along with some fun things that I'm going to show you, some new projects that we've got going on this week. Good morning, Michelle. And some new patterns and videos, and it's just been a wild and crazy couple of weeks. Things are starting to settle down a little bit. I'll have to tell you, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And as things happen and things go on and, life, I don't bounce back as quickly as I used to. I got real sick, and I'm so glad so many people were so sick this year, and I hope everybody's starting to feel better. I see some more of you have popped in. Hi, Susie. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Kimberly. I'm so glad you're all here. And I hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful week last week. We had snow, and then we had 60-degree weather. And then we had 2 days of snow, and then another 60-degree day. It's so funny. Well, have you noticed my earrings? They're donuts. And here's a donut. I have to tell you a really funny story. I went to go to the gym last week. I think it was Friday. And I got there, and the lady at the desk said, the pool is really cold. Yes, they're donut earrings. I'm going to tell you the story. Gina. My sister's name is Gina, but she spells it Gina. Anyway, they said I couldn't swim. I could, but the water was just too cold. So I thought, I better go to the donut house and get a donut then. And they have a great donut that is a pineapple fritter. They know I love it. I go in there all the time. And he said, when I went to check out, I had my donut, and their donuts are amazing. It's the Donut House, and they have several donut places around Denver and the Denver area. But anyway, he said, we got our keychains back, and you want one for your granddaughter, because he knows I have a granddaughter. And I said, well, can I have two so I can make some earrings? He said, here, have another one so you can make a necklace too. And we just laughed, and I left, and I got home, and so I did. I got a pink one, I got a blue one, and I got a chocolate one. Is that the funniest thing ever? Okay, so then I left the donut house, and I only eat half the fritter because they're enormous and amazing. And I ran by Walmart, and I'm going down the clearance aisle, and check out this cup I found. Can you read what it says? Eat more whole foods. And remember, my donut cup had a crack in it, so I can only use it for show because I dropped it and it hit down here, and then it cracked from here to here, and the coffee seeps out slowly out the side. So not only that day did I get a donut, I got some donut earrings and a necklace, and I got a donut cup. We're a little donut crazy. Okay, so that really brightened my day. And then I got home, and I opened up the mailbox later on that day, and I got a wonderful thank you note. All the gifts for the prizes all were sent out. I was so happy. I've done several giveaways where it takes a while for people to contact me, and I was so happy. I got everybody contacted, everything sent out, and I'm really looking forward to our next giveaway. But I got this card in the mail, and she was one of the ladies that got one of the Hobby Lobby gift cards. And she says, thank you, I received the Hobby Lobby gift card. See you on my Facebook page. I love that. And this is from Barbara. She was one of our gift card winners. And that just brightened up my day, and I'm so glad. Barbara, when you pop in, I read your card. And then I had another surprise. A friend of mine named Tracy gave me this adorable stitch marker. It is silver. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. If it'll stop shaking. And it's a coffee cup with a heart. It's so beautiful. It's too pretty to use. I think I'm going to hook it on my necklace. So anyway, I had been so sick, and I had a little bit of a rough time. And then I had a whole day full of brightness and sunshine. And our motto this week is, it's by Aesop. It says, no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. And I so appreciate kindness to me, and I really try to be kind to others. So anyway, let's get into our conversation. Now, I had a couple of emails, and this is a question I get often. Yes, we almost forgot to clink in, didn't we, Debbie? Hi, Kimberly and Sharon and Debbie. Y'all popped in. Clink in. Clink. We don't want to forget that. Okay, so I get this question all the time, and it's something I haven't really thought of much. And because in my brain, there are several different kinds of crocheters. I'm kind of the artistic crocheter. If I can figure things out, I can see something and just do it. Then there's also the technical crocheter who likes to count every single stitch. Everything is perfect. They're a little bit of OCD. Not really, but they're just, you know, technical, and it's not wrong. It's just different, that people have different ways of doing things. And then there's people who are both. And I kind of put my own daughter, Elizabeth, she has Callie's Clips and Crochet Creations. And I kind of put her in the where she's very technical, but she's also very artistic. And I think that's a good place to be. I'm more artistic, where I just sort of feel it and do it. And so the question is, hi, Trish. Glad you popped in. She hasn't got to pop in lately. Well, anyway, the question is, when you're stitching a single crochet, whether it's in a row or a round, is it chain one and turn, or is it turn and chain one? And I get this question all the time. And does it make a difference in what we're doing? Well, it can, and sometimes it doesn't. And so let me show you real quick. I'm going to pop down on my lower cam here so you can see just a little bit of demonstration. Here is single crochet in the round. Let me move this backdrop here. And then here's single crochet in rows. Now these are both from our Back to Crochet Basics videos. And so what I'm going to do, just so that you understand, there's two ways to do a single crochet. Here is a chain that I've made. I'm going to put my hook in, and I'm just going to stitch some single crochets across. Now remember, the hook on your chain does not count as anything. Your first chain is the first chain that's off your hook. And we're going to begin in the second chain from the hook. And I'm just going to stitch some single crochets across real quick so that we can talk about this. And the chain one and turn, depending on what pattern it is, because sometimes a designer has a specific stitch or way they want it to look, and so they do have you turn or not turn. So just remember to do what the pattern tells you to do. Okay, now here is just a simple row with this chunky yarn of single crochets. I'm going to chain one and I'm going to turn. But what if I turned and then chained one? Would that make a difference? Now for me it makes a difference because I think turning and then chaining one can be clumsy, but it's actually the very same thing. The purpose of the chain one is not to be a stitch. It's so that when you turn your work, it lays nicely. Okay, so if I just turned my work and started stitching in this first single crochet, it's kind of jumbled up and it doesn't lay nice. That first single crochet is kind of standing up. And so that's all, the only purpose of the chain one and turn, or turn and chain one. When you're stitching single crochets in rows, they're exactly the same thing. Nothing different. You can turn and chain one, you can chain one and turn. Now a lot of times, if you're changing colors, you're going to want to add that color in first, then make your chain one, because when you turn, your chain one is up here and you'll have that first color on there. And we don't want that, because then it will look like you've got a little bit of a half stitch, right? All right, now that's single crocheting in rows. Let me pop back up to the top camera. One of the things that I wanted to show you this real quick. This is that bookmark that we made, and you can see that it keeps your rows nice and straight. Single crochets, chain one, turn, and count your stitches. Makes a nice straight row. But if you're stitching in the round, there's another piece of yarn on there, it's not the same thing, because you're stitching, whether you're joining your rounds or whether you're just stitching in the round. It makes a difference because you're going to chain one, and that chain one's not going to count as a stitch. And when you come back around your row, you're going to join in your first single crochet, not your chain one, unless your pattern designer tells you something different. And if you're single crocheting in a row, the pattern designer won't tell you to turn unless they have a specific reason. Okay, so when you're stitching in rows, you're going to chain one, turn, or turn, chain one. They're both the same thing when you're stitching in rows. But when you're stitching in the round, you usually don't turn. You just keep going in the direction that you're going. Whether you're right-handed or left-handed, you're still going in the same direction. Now, a pattern designer may tell you chain one and turn. And usually that's if they're wanting to have a specific look, or they're going to be changing up the stitch a little bit and they want it to show a different direction. Okay? So basically, rule of thumb is chain one, turn, or turn and chain one is the same thing when you're stitching in rows. And you want to do that so that your rows lay nicely. Okay? Now, when you're stitching in the round, you don't turn. You'll chain one, but you usually don't turn unless the pattern designer tells you to. She may have you do go the other way because she's maybe doing a bobble stitch and she wants it to stick up. Or he's doing, I don't know, I can't think of anything offhand besides a bubble stitch. But anyway, a difference in the pattern, and they want it to show on that side, basically. So follow the pattern that you're following and do what the designer says to do. And if you have a question, contact the designer. Okay, so I hope that answered that question. Bottom line, chain one, turn, or turn and chain one is the same thing when you're stitching in straight rows. Okay, and you know, some of these things that I've been doing for years and years and years, I don't even think about. They're just habit. And so never, ever, ever think that you have a question that is not important. Like I always say, if I don't have an answer to your question, I will try and find you one. Okay? So be sure and ask your questions. Okay? So that's one question. The second question I got this week, actually not this week, it's been several weeks I've been getting this question. How do we get involved in the live video chat? And of course, you're all here. And so, hi, oh, I missed some of you. Hi, Missy and Aurora. I love your name, Aurora. I always think of Sleeping Beauty and la, 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 you know. I love that name. And of course, we have a city here right up from us named Aurora. My husband actually works in a city named Aurora. So I'm so glad you're all here. I hope I haven't missed anybody. There's Crystal and Missy and Trish and Debbie. And I'm so glad you're all here. Okay, clinkety clink in again. Alrighty, now the second question that I get all the time, and I usually get it from YouTube viewers, and it's how do I get involved in the live video chat? Now I have decided to do my live video chat on Facebook, and that's because I started on Facebook first, and then we have our live video chat here. And if you don't know, of course all of you do because you're here, but Posh Pooch Designs. And I've been using this name for about 10 years now since I started online. I've been crocheting since when I was 15 for many years. But so all you have to do is go to Posh Pooch Designs. It's a business page, not a personal page. And at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time, every Tuesday I try to do this. Sometimes if someone's sick, or like when I was in the hospital, I couldn't do it, you know, or, you know, family issues or whatever. But I do try every Tuesday, 9:30 a.m., and that's Mountain Time. And you'll have to check wherever you're located in the world when that is for you, and then clink in. It's really that simple. I try really hard to check the comments, and that's why I'm looking down sometimes. I've got two screens up, and I've got my actual video that I'm doing up on this screen, and then over here I've got the Facebook Live so that I can see all the comments. Because when I do it with just my my live screen, on my one screen, I cannot see the comments, and I want to see the comments. And that's why you'll see me look down from time to time, because I'm looking over at the comments. I don't catch them all, and I do try, but I don't catch them all. Anyway, so that's how you can be involved in the live video chat. My thinking is the more the merrier, and we're going to have so much fun. And I like to be silly, and I like to be informative, and I like to laugh. And you know, my theme has always been be kind, be kind, be kind. So anyway, that's the second question. All right, now the third question was, where is your webpage? And I know I've talked about this before. If you want to find me online, I'm just about everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Ravelry, Etsy, Google Plus, YouTube, but of course they're all under different little things. Like I might be Sara Sach, or I might be Posh Pooch Sara Sach, or Sara Posh Pooch, because when I set a lot of these up, I did them a little bit different. And so what you can do to find me at any of my web pages, or any, not web pages, but any of the places online that you want to find me, if you just go to www.poshpoochdesigns.com, that's my main web page. I call it my portal. And if you go there, it has all the different places that you can find me. And then it also it has my blog. It has, you know, everywhere you can find me. And it also has a little click tab that says contact. And if you want to send me an email and ask me a question, because you know I like that, you can just click that little tab, and it'll automatically send you to my email, and you can ask whatever question that you want. So the other place that you can find it is on my Facebook page. In the About section, I have all those links listed. Under the YouTube video, I always put where you can find me at all those places as well. So if you're trying to find me, ask me a question, or just find what's going on, I am everywhere. Yes, Jeannie, I got brand new earrings. At the beginning of the video, I talked about where I got the donuts from. They're just key rings that I got from the donut shop. It's called the Donut House, and he's become a friend of mine because he knows I like his donuts. And he this is what the keychain looked like, and I stuck the two on my hoop earrings. We are a little donut crazy around here. My granddaughter loves donuts. We just all love donuts, and her mom makes amazing cakes. And I think she even has a cake that she makes that looks like a donut. So anyway, that's all the questions that I have this week. Remember, like I always say, no question, I should say all questions are important. And if you ask a question, don't feel bad about it, and I will do my best to find you an answer. If I don't know the answer, I'll do my best to find it. All right, so let's talk about what's going on this week on the YouTube channel and Posh Pooch Designs. Now, last Friday, I had a lady contact me about this particular pattern, and this is my, I call it American flag pattern. It's basically a granny square, I think it's called metered style. And she was trying to figure out the pattern. I wrote the pattern about 5 years ago. And she was trying to figure out the pattern because it is a little bit different. And she got it all down to where she was putting on the gold trim. And it's a little confusing on the sides that are different. And she said, I just can't figure out where to put my stitches. And I said, you know what? This is due for a video. And so I made a video on Friday. I did a step-by-step. And it also has a photo tutorial on the blog. So, and that blog link, of course, is underneath the video. I'm going to be, she also does, she's making it for her son that's in the military. And I thought, you know, what a great idea to make these into lap blankets or small blankets to give out to like the veterans in different places. And so my husband's an Air Force veteran, so that's near and dear to my heart. And so I'm coming up with a pattern to go with this to put together into kind of a neat blanket. And so hopefully I can get that out next week sometime, or maybe the week after. So that's one thing that's new on the blog. The other thing that's new is this great big spunky chunky bag. Now I made the other two, and one of the questions I keep getting is about the counts, and I want to really reiterate the fact that when you begin each row, I think it's after row 4, I can't remember because I don't have the pattern memorized, might be row 3. When you're doing the bottom of the bag, you're going to chain 3 and put a stitch right in that same stitch as the chain 3. And then you begin the pattern of the row. If you don't get those first 2 stitches in there, it's going to mess your whole count up. So keep that in mind if you do the chunky bag. Now, we did an 8-inch and a 10-inch. There's a video for that out there. And a friend of mine said, I need a bigger bag. So 12-inch. So I made another one. And I just did a little video and hooked, not video. I just did a little blog and hooked it onto that blog. And because it's the same thing, you're just increasing 2 more rows and then 2 more rows here. And of course it's bigger around, so you have to adjust for the handles. Super easy, all double crochet, except the last 2 rows, single crochet, and then a slip stitch row, just to keep it nice and tight. But I love this bag. This is my new favorite bag. It is awesome. And it's so big, you can use it for shopping. One thing to remember, if you're using those shopping bags, I've had a lot of questions about my shopping bags because a lot of the cities now are going to start putting tax on plastic bags. I think Denver is one of them that's thinking about it. I don't know if it's gone into vote yet or not. And so I'm getting a lot of people making those bags. One thing to remember, they're great. They're fantastic. You can make them out of acrylic or cotton or whatever you want. Just remember, if you use them, to wash them. Because especially if you use them for fresh produce, there's going to be leftover residue. And if you use them for like milk products or frozen products, you get moisture. And so make sure you wash them and dry them, because if you don't keep them clean, they can get full of mildew. Okay, that's just a little tip. I experienced it with one of my cotton bags. The zip bag, or the drawstring bag, I took it with me because I was just picking up to Sprouts. I was just picking up some cucumbers and tomatoes and stuff. And I threw it in the back of the car. I took it in, and then, because I have a hook, I take the stuff out and I just hook the bags back up. Well, I didn't wash it and it got a little mildewy and stinky and I had to throw it away. So keep that in mind if you're going to use the reusable crochet bags. All right, so yesterday we did our second stitch for our Harmony sample blanket. I keep calling it sampler, so if you hear me say Harmony sampler blanket, it's okay. But it's the Harmony sample blanket, and we did our second stitch. Our first stitch was the granny square, and then we did our second stitch is the V-stitch square. And if you haven't been a part of our Harmony sample blanket, what we're doing is we're making a blanket. And I gave you a set of stitches, and the blanket is based off those stitches. And if you want to make it bigger, you absolutely can. And you can do as many rows of the stitch as you want to. So once a month, because it's a year-long crochet along, once a month we're going to be adding a new stitch. And we started with the granny square stitch, and then this month, we did the V-stitch. Okay, so the way it's going to work is I'm going to try to put out there the last Monday of each month, the new stitch, and then you can work it in to your blanket. And if you watch the 2 videos, the first one is just the basic, what you need and how to get started, and then the first stitch. And then the second video, I also added a little bit of troubleshooting tips at the end. Because when you're doing a sample blanket that's made up of lots of different stitches, you're going to have to adjust a little bit on the ends. And I started with 4 double crochets, and we do our stitch, and then we end with 4 double crochets on each row. And that gives you a little playroom to work that up. And it's going to be so pretty. This is the whole blanket. I've got it folded up, of course, but that we're going to be doing. You can see lots of fun stitches on there. And what I did, whoopsie, drop it. What I did is I chose 12 of my most favorite stitches to use. And I also tried not to make it too complicated, because I want all crocheters to be able to participate, because I want to keep it easy, but I also want to keep it enjoyable. And something to remember, I had one lady tell me that my stuff is boring because it's too easy. And what I try to do is keep my crochet patterns easy. I have very few that are intermediate or expert, because I don't view myself as an expert or intermediate. I view myself as a basic crocheter. And I can do a lot of those stitches, but what I want to do is try to make crochet accessible to the most amount of people. If I'm always doing really hard crochet patterns, not everybody can do those. And so what I try to do is I try to do some real easy ones. And that's kind of what's going along with our back to basics, our back to crochet basics lessons. And it kind of goes along with that idea, is that if you're learning the basics, once you get down all the basic pattern stitches from, single crochet to triple crochet, the basics, you can pretty much make any stitch because they're all different combinations of those stitches, as well as putting them in different places. And so that's kind of my view on things, is I want everyone to be able to use my patterns. And if you're a beginner crocheter, a lot of my patterns will be perfect for you. And even if you're an expert, we don't always want to do complicated. Sometimes we want to just do something pretty and nice for someone else, or just whip it up quickly, or just have some fun and relax. And so that's kind of my motto on my crochet pattern, because one thing to remember, every pattern writer writes differently. And if you were to read a pattern from, say, 40 or 50 or even 60 years ago, oh my word, those things are so complicated. And so what I've tried to do is eliminate some of the complication of that and try to keep my patterns easier to read, easier to understand. And I try to give you so much information, sizing and how to adjust, and yarns you can substitute and things like that. I try to give you that much information. And although I have one lady tell me I give way too much information, I just need to get to doing the pattern. That was on a video. I said, okay. So the bottom line is I can't please everybody, but I sure am going to try. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I'm kind of rattling, but I love this time that I get to talk with all of you. I see your names come up, and I feel like you're all my friends here, and that you love crochet and yarn as much as I do. So I'm going to leave you with our thought. No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. Have a great week, everybody, and thank you for coming to my live video chat today.